Hello there everybody, how is it going and how have you been? I am EuclideanSqd, and we're back here in Duel Links to check out the newest roaming duelist, Solemn Odion. So, much like other roaming duelist events, Solemn Odion will show up randomly, you duel him, he vanishes for a while. You can make him respawn faster by participating in other duels, and the event basically repeats like that. Really not much you can say about the mechanics of this event, it's incredibly simple like that. However, thankfully, unlike some of the previous roaming duelists, I was able to find a fairly good farming deck, and even better, even though it does have a few rare cards, those rare cards are relatively easy to get, and as a whole, I was also able to replace the harder ones to get, or any sort of event-exclusive rare cards, for more common alternatives. So we have a very cheap farming deck to use against Solemn Odion. It should be pretty easy to put together, even though there will be a somewhat high number of super rares in the deck itself. But the first thing you will need to do is you will want to unlock Esperoba for dueling. Now, I believe I saw on the Duel Links meta website, to which I will include a link to the original recipe down below, if you want to check out what the deck is supposed to look like, as opposed to my super cheap alternative. But I believe I saw that Esperoba unlocks at stage 13 in the regular duel world. So if you don't have him yet, try to get to stage 13 and you should start getting the unlock missions. And once you have him, you will have the most important card you could possibly have if you are trying to farm Solemn Odion. And that would be Espa's signature card, Jinzo. So even though this is an ultra rare, because it is Espa's signature card, you will get one copy of it in his starter deck. And Jinzo is incredibly important because it negates all trap effects on the field while it is face up. In particular, this is because Solemn Odion's deck is comprised of almost entirely trap cards. So as soon as you get Jinzo in play, Odion is literally unable to do anything. He cannot activate his trap cards, he cannot use their effects, so all of his trap monsters retreat back to his spell and trap card zone, and he can't use any of their effects, he can't put anything in play, he's helpless as soon as Jinzo hits the field. And in fact, the only non-trap cards he has in his deck are 2 copies of a spell card called Magic Planter, which send a continuous trap from his field to the graveyard so he can draw 2 cards. But probably by the time you are summoning Jinzo, his back row will be full of traps and he won't even be able to use that. So the faster you can get Jinzo onto the field, the better off you're going to be. And the rest of the deck is somewhat constructed to do exactly that. Now again, the deck on Duel Links meta has somewhat better cards for getting Jinzo and so on, but the one thing that I am not able to replicate at all is the skill that they recommended. So the skill they recommend is one of Esperoba's called Cosmic Enlightenment, and it basically works kind of like a draw sense in that after you take a certain amount of damage, you can activate the skill for your draw phase, and it will let you draw either a Jinzo or a random Psychic type monster. With the idea being that you only have the one copy of Jinzo in your deck, you take a little bit of damage so you can actually use the skill, and then you can find your Jinzo regardless of wherever it was. I don't have that because that skill is only Esperoba can only get that skill as a drop from a legendary duelist or in the PvP arena. So I am making do with Life Point Boost Alpha. I honestly don't know if this is a level up skill or not. If it's not, just try your best to find something else. I would probably recommend against Espa's skill that adds more copies of Jinzo into your deck. Well, you could try that because it will make your deck slightly bigger than Odion's. But if you're using Pot of Benevolences like I am, that kind of won't matter, and overall it might increase your chances of drawing Jinzo. I can't really do the math in my head at this moment. But the point is that you will need a copy of Jinzo if you want this farming strategy to work. The rest of the deck is designed around milling your deck as quickly as possible so you can find and summon Jinzo as easily as you can. So first off, we have the super rares, which are Thunder Dragons. These can be purchased from the card trader. So if you don't have them, you can get them whenever you want, albeit a bit slowly. And Thunder Dragons are great because you can discard one from your hand and then add up to 2 more from your deck to your hand. So basically, as soon as you find one, you can draw 2 more cards out of your deck, and then on the last turn, you can combine it with the Polymerization, also very easy to get, being a super rare, to fusion summon Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon is kind of required simply because it provides another amount of life points for the whole Gravekeeper's Vassal, Union Attack, Secret Pass, farming last turn combo thing, whereas Jinzo provides the other half of the attack points. If you don't have Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, which I believe you can also buy from the card trader, so if you don't have any of these cards, it's probably going to be slow going getting them, but doable. If you don't have Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, the next best recommendation I could suggest would be if you can get a copy of a card called Cattle Call from the card trader, you could use that to effectively tribute a bubonic vermin, because it is a beast type, for some other beast type fusion or synchro monster from your extra deck to provide the other amount of attack points. Simply because Jinzo is not going to be able to get Vassal to over 10,000 by itself. Cattle Call specifically is a spell that I'm actually going to look it up really quick because I don't quite remember the wording for it. Here we go. So Cattle Call is a quick play spell. You select one face-up monster, or you send one face-up monster you control to the graveyard whose original type is Beast, Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast. And you special summon one monster from your extra deck with the same type. However, it can't attack, and it's fixed or negated, and it's destroyed, so definitely only want to use this on the last turn, but it will let you swap out a Bubonic Vermin for a Beast Synchro or a Beast Fusion. Something else to get those attack points so that you can do over the 10,000 damage. Now the other cards, Petin the Dark Clown and Bubonic Vermin, are specifically meant to special summon other copies of themselves out of your deck when they are destroyed, so that, again, your deck shrinks in size, and you have monsters to continually eat attacks so that Odion doesn't actually beat you, and ideally have something left over on the field for when you do draw Jinzo so that you contribute it to summon Jinzo. So Bubonic Vermin is a flip effect monster where you special summon another one face down in face down defense position, then shuffle your deck. Can't really get more self-explanatory than that. It just keeps summoning itself out of your deck. Petin works somewhat similarly, except when its effect is same result, different process. Basically, when Petin is sent to the graveyard, you can banish it out of your graveyard to special summon another one from your hand or deck. Petin is a little bit more useful than Bubonic Vermin because it will special summon some from your hand, whereas Vermin can only summon from the deck. But again, the end result is the same. It's putting monsters out on the field to eat attacks and to be tribute fodder for Jinzo. Now, because I don't have that Cosmic Enlightenment skill, I've decided to add this super rare trap card called Psychic Shockwave. I think Espa might get them by level up, and in fact I will check really quick after we finish reviewing the deck. If it is not a level up, it is a reward card for beating Esparoba in a duel, so you can try for some of these once you do unlock them at the gate. But this is basically a trap card that says you can activate it only when your opponent activates a trap card, which is very easy against Solemn Odion. And you discard another spell or trap card from your hand to special summon a level 6 Dark Machine type monster from your deck. Now, admittedly, most of the other spell and trap cards that are going to be in your hand are going to be essential. The Pot of Benevolences are probably the one that is most easily dumped to use Psychic Shockwave's effect. But if you do have to throw away something like Secret Pass or a Union Attack or something like that, you can use your Pot of Benevolences to recover them later. Again, the point is getting Jinzo out as quickly as you possibly can so that Odion's, rendered helpless. And in case you're wondering, even though it does not specify Jinzo, Jinzo itself is a level 6 Dark Machine type. So Psychic Shockwave summons Jinzo. Easy enough to say. Pot of Benevolence, in case you aren't aware from when I use it in, I want to say, like Euclidean decks and stuff like that. You select 2 cards from the graveyard, shuffle them back into the owner's decks, and it removes from play instead of going to the graveyard, so you can't just keep sending Pot of Benevolences back with other ones. You can also only activate 1 pot each turn, so again, if you do have to throw away a more important spell to use Psychic Shockwave, you can recover it if you have Pot of Benevolence in your deck, although this is not quite as good as something like Shard of Greed, whereas because Shard of Greed lets you draw 2 cards out of your deck, it goes through your cards faster as opposed to trying to delay Odion. So, slightly less useful than it could be, but again, Pot of Benevolence is also a lot easier to get your hands on than Shard of Greed is. And other than that, it's the typical Secret Pass, Gravekeeper's Vassal, Union Attack combo. Union Attack combines your other monster's attacks into one monster. Secret Pass allows something with less than 1,000 attack points to attack directly. So you play Vassal, you Secret Pass it, Union Attack, Vassal does over 10,000 damage. There you go. And in case you were wondering, Polymerization is also a super rare, however you can get it in a lot of ways. It is a Joey level up reward, you can buy them from the card trader, and they are also in the Chaz and Alexis starter decks. So, plenty of easy ways for you to get your hands on this super rare card. And honestly, looking at this deck, the one rare card that I think you could get rid of would be the Thunder Dragons, but you would then have to get your hands on this super rare Cattle Call and sticks maybe some other beast or maybe a winged beast or something in your deck to take its place and give you more opportunity to summon something strong enough to keep Odion's monsters at bay and give Vassal over attack points. There are alternatives, but the Thunder Dragons and Polymerization is definitely the easiest I could think of. So, with that, felt like a little bit of a confusing explanation, but we're going to be moving on in a slightly different direction than normal, because I just want to point out that much like other roaming duelists, there are special missions you can complete while Solemn Odion is in Duel World. Specifically, if you win one duel against him, you'll get a copy of his Grave Protector reward card. If you win 3, you get another copy of Temple of the Kings, which is not super important because when you do unlock Odion himself, you can get copies of it just by leveling him up, and I think you do get one in his starter deck. Maybe? I'm not sure about that. When you beat him 7 times, you get a copy of the First Monarch, which is another reward card, and if you just play 15 duels against him without surrendering, you get the ultra rare card he has called Statue of Anguish Pattern. And I'll be going over all of those effects right now. I just wanted to point out that there are missions to guarantee at least one copy of each of his really good reward cards. So, to start off with, we have a really bad normal monster, Stone Dragon, a level 7 Rock Earth with 2,000 attack and 2,300 defense. Awful card. Awful card. I would not recommend using this. Again, unless you have absolutely no other alternatives, don't use this. Moving on, we have Earthshaker, a regular trap card. You select 2 monster card attributes. Your opponent then selects one of the 2 attributes and destroys all face-up monsters with that attribute on the field. So, kind of a good trap card, but only if your opponent is going to have multiple monsters or multiple attributes among their monsters. Because otherwise it's like you pick the one that they all share, and then you pick the one that none of them share, and your opponent's just going to pick the one that none of them have. So ideally you use Earthshaker to make them pick between 2 monsters that they currently control. Moving on to the rares, we have Dark Coffin, a regular trap card. When this face-down card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, your opponent selects and executes one of the following effects. They must either discard a random card in their hand, or select one monster on their side of the field and destroy it. Dark Coffin can be kind of fun because it's kind of acts as bait for spell and trap destruction. Ideally, you would set your Dark Coffins and hope that your opponent spends their Dust Tornadoes or their Galaxy Cyclones or whatever on Dark Coffin as opposed to the traps you actually want to use. Or you could use it with something like, what's it called? Double Hurricane or Double Cyclone? Whatever that spell card is that destroys one of your spell cards, one of your spell trap cards, and one of your opponent's spell trap cards. Because in that case, you would destroy your own Dark Coffin, one of your opponent's spells, Dark Coffin's effect would go off and hurt them even more. The next rare is the counter trap card, Curse of Royal. When a spell trap card is activated that targets one spell trap on the field and no other cards, and would destroy it, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So this does counter stuff like Galaxy Cyclone, it counters Dust Tornado, probably more. I can't really think of much just because those are the two cards that I use a lot, so there are options, but it is a very, very specific activation requirement to use this. And then the final rare that Odion offers is a new card. It is Grave Protector, a level 4 Dark Fiend with no attack but 2000 defense, and any monster destroyed by battle is shuffled into the deck instead of going to the graveyard. So, very interesting creature. I'm trying to think of monsters that specifically want to be destroyed and sent to the graveyard for their effects to activate, and I can't really think of any right now. But even so, it is a 2000 defense point monster, which is pretty beefy for a 4-star. Moving on to the super rares, we have That Wacky Alchemy, regular trap card. If a face-up spell card in your opponent's spell and trap card zones is sent to the graveyard, you can target a face-up monster on the field and destroy that target. This is really good because you can just activate it in response to any spell cards. So I have been starting to get into the PvP arena again. I know, shocker, especially compared to how much I've been complaining about it, but anyway. So, for example, against these 6 Samurai decks, you could use this thing when your opponent tries to activate 6 Samurai United or Shien's Dojo or something like that, where its effect sends it to the graveyard. You chain That Wacky Alchemy to it, and then you can try to blow up one of their 6 Samurais, and hopefully disrupt whatever they were trying to do. Next we have Temple of the Kings. Continuous spell card. You can activate 1 trap card the turn it was set. Very nice effect. Additionally, you can send 1 Mystical Beast of Circuit in your monster zone and this card you control to the graveyard. Then special summon 1 monster from your hand or deck, or 1 fusion monster from your extra deck. You can only use each effect of Temple of the Kings once per turn. So you do get some copies of this by leveling Odion up. I know that for sure. And honestly, this is a really nice continuous spell, if only for the fact that you can activate a trap card the same turn you set it. That's always kind of nice, and if you do build a deck around using Mystical Beast of Circuit, which I know quite a few really, really early farming decks actually did rely on Temple of the Kings and Circuit, you can basically give up the 2 for any monster you want. Like, just stick any fusion monster in your extra deck, like Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, 5-Headed Dragon, Dragon Master Knight. Give up a 2500 monster for a 4500 plus monster. Pretty cool. And speaking of, Mystical Beast of Circuit, a level 6 Fairy Earth. Would not think this thing would be a fairy, but it is. With 2500 attack and 2000 defense. If you do not control Temple of the Kings, destroy this card. Banish any monster destroyed by battle with this card, and if this card destroys a monster in battle, it gains 500 attack. So, Circuit itself is a fairly threatening monster on its own. However, Circuit is somewhat susceptible to spell trap destruction simply because your opponent just has to get rid of the Temple of the Kings and Circuit goes with it. So, ideally, you'd probably want to just tribute off Circuit for whatever big scary monster is lurking in your extra deck instead. And actually the nice thing too is that Circuit is a level 6 monster, so it's only so you only have to tribute 1 thing to summon it, and then you can exchange it for something even better. Next up, new super rare, continuous trap card, the First Monarch. You special summon this card as an effect monster, a fiend type dark, or a dark fiend type, that is level 6 with 1000 attack and 2400 defense. This card still counts as a trap card, however. If you summon it this way, you can discard 1 card, declare an attribute, and this card becomes that attribute instead. Additionally, it can also be treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of a monster with the same attribute as this card. So, in other words, when you summon it after activation, you can discard a card and declare something like Water. First Monarch then becomes a Water attribute monster and counts as 2 tributes for other Water attribute monsters. So, a very nice thing. Makes it a lot easier to summon level 7s and 8s, providing you have another card in your hand to discard so that you can change this thing's attribute into the correct thing, unless it's a dark, in which case you don't have to do it, because it starts as a dark. Additionally, if this card was summoned this way, you cannot special summon monsters except monsters that share this card's attribute. So, a little bit trickier to use this thing as synchro material. One, because it is level 6, and that's kind of a difficult number to synchro summon around. But two, unless you discard a card to change it to the right attribute, you might not be able to use it as synchro material for whatever you were planning to use it for. So, very good trap card, I would say, but it can be a bit costly to use, so it might end up backfiring a few times. Still, 2400 defense is nothing to sneeze at. Anyway, so if you just need something to soak up attacks, this thing can probably do in the early game. And then finally, we have this really cool looking ultra rare Statue of Anguish pattern. A continuous trap card that, again, special summon this card as an effect monster. Rock type Earth, level 7 with no attack and 2500 defense. This card still counts as a trap card, however, and if summoned this way, this card cannot be targeted by an opponent's card effects while you control another trap card that is a monster. So in other words, this works out really well with the cards that Odion likes to use. So First Monarchs, Embodiment of Apophis, any of the Paleozoics. Actually, I don't think the Paleozoics count because they say they don't behave as trap cards anymore. But, you know, stuff like that. As long as you control another one, your opponent can't do anything with this thing. They can't enemy controller it, they can't target it with monster effects, nothing. It's completely untargetable. And additionally, if a card is special summoned from your spell and trap zone to the monster zone while this card is a monster, you can target a card on the field and destroy it. So as you summon your other trap monsters, not only does Anguish pattern become harder to get rid of, Anguish pattern also starts blowing up your opponent's stuff, which is really cool, and I really like this card, and I really kind of hope that I get 3 copies of it, because I really want to use it. But anyway, that's all the reward cards, so let's go ahead and do an example farming duel. Ideally, this deck will cooperate. I've only really had one test so far. He spawned twice, once at level 40, once at level 30, so I won the level 40 at least, so that was promising. Excuse me as I take a drink. Alright, we got Jinzo right off the bat. I am happy with this. So I'm going to set a Bubonic Vermin. Activate only when your opponent activates a trap card. Okay, so Psychic Shockwave is worthless right now because I have Jinzo in my hand. But that's actually kind of fine. Just trying to think of how I want to go about this. Well, actually, yeah, because he can't use... Well, he could use Magic Planter right now. But I think I should be okay. I don't actually want to summon another Bubonic Vermin, because if I do, there's not going to be enough room for Jinzo, Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, and Vassal. So I'm just going to go ahead and just tribute off Vermin for Jinzo right away, and we have Odion locked down. And we get to see this cool-looking animation of Jinzo, which is a very creepy monster, all things considered, but anyway. So, we have Jinzo. I'm going to go ahead and use Thunder Dragon's effect as well to add 2 more copies of him from my deck to my hand. And we win now. Cool, and Odion can't use Magic Planter either. So now it's a drawing game. Go ahead and toss the Psychic Shockwave. It's worthless now. Oh, this is one thing that I want to bring up. I'm kind of spacing on whether or not I mentioned it while I was going over the deck, but once you do summon Jinzo, you also cannot activate trap cards. Jinzo blocks both players from using their trap cards, so you don't have to have Psychic Shockwave, but I wouldn't recommend stuff like Good Goblin Housekeeping or Jar of Greed either when it comes to trying to sort through the cards in your deck. Simply because, oh shoot. This is fine. This is fine. I can recover from this. I wasn't paying attention and I accidentally clicked the button I didn't want to. But anyway. So, yeah, long and short of it is try to limit the trap cards you're going to be using in this deck to, because once you have Jinzo, they're worthless. In fact, that's part of why I ultimately decided on Pot of Benevolence, because I was considering Good Goblin Housekeeping. Because I was like, oh yeah, this will help me draw through cards, it'll replace stuff that I don't need right now, so I can get to the junk more readily. And then I realized, oh wait, once I have Jinzo, I can't use them anymore, so forget it. That's fine. So, there we go. Alright, I was able to recover. So if you do accidentally mess up and you do get a filler fodder monster on the field again, aside from the one that you needed for Jinzo, you can save yourself by tributing it for one of the Thunder Dragons before you fuse them. Just don't create a second one. Well, you could, and then just wait a turn, tribute it for the other Thunder Dragon, and then fuse them both. So it's recoverable if you do misclick, just try not to misclick. Go ahead and keep tossing cards back into his deck because I can. Making absolutely sure he cannot possibly draw out of cards before I do. And at this point, I don't... Actually, you don't even need Secret Pass. Well, no, you might need Secret Pass because it is possible that he will get a Paleozoic on the field before you summon Jinzo. And like I mentioned, all Paleozoics have this modifier in their effect that say they don't count as trap cards once they become monsters. So you do actually need Secret Pass just on the off chance that Odion summons a Paleozoic. But if you're lucky enough to get Jinzo turn 2, you don't have to worry about it. It is a little disappointing. I was kind of hoping I would be able to at least use Petten and use the Clown and Vermin to mill through my deck just to speed things up a little bit more, but whatever, I can't complain with the results. As usual, Summon Vassal, Secret Pass, Union Attack, Union Attack, Battle, and 11,100 damage. Boom. Odion's done. Pretty easy to farm him once you get Jinzo, which is why I made such a big deal about unlocking Esperoba so you could get it. It literally makes it so that he can't play a single damn card in his entire deck. It's fantastic. And I was actually concerned because I had thought that Jinzo was, like, locked behind an event. I had forgotten that Esperoba was added to the gate a while ago. So I was sitting around for like an hour trying to think, like, okay, what other cards could I possibly use to suppress traps? I could try something that destroys them, but that would be a lot of cards, and I can't target stuff like his Anguish pattern if he has other stuff on the field. And then I checked, and I was like, oh, Esperoba is at the gate. Well, this has got a whole hell of a lot easier. So, there you go. That's the Solemn Odion event. Happy farming. Hope this all works out for you. And thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all had a great time, and I hope you all have a great day. And I will see you all in the next one.